it seems. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome, guys. That's right. Miss Liz is back. And as I promised this afternoon, I have Dr. Jim Price in the house. And we're going to talk about Harold. That's right. Miss Liz has crashed that purple snail. We're going to see where that snail has been going since Miss Liz last spoke to Dr. Jim Price. We also noticed that Jim was not on season 5. He was on season 4. So that's how long time flies, right? Time flies for everybody. So Harold's been really busy for the last 2 years. So we're going to get Dr. Jim Price in here and we're going to talk about that. But before we get any of that started, you know how this works. We have to put those disclaimers out there so nobody gets offended and all that good stuff. And then we're going to do a little bit of bio on Dr. Jim Price. And then we're going to get Dr. Jim in here. And we're going to talk about Harold. And we're going to talk about empowerment for the youths and children. And we're going to talk about diversity and all of that good stuff. So get ready. Grab your tea, grab your coffee, grab your juice, water, whatever you'd like to drink. It's not about the beverage. It's about the story that we serve at Tea Time with Miss Liz. So let's get started with disclaimer. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Please, before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good health and good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their good judgment when considering any action or decisions that may relate to the discussion. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotional triggering subjects. Listeners and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussions, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Teatimes. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. Miss Liz welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect those wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you're ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Now let me get Jim's bio here, and then we're going to get Dr. Jim Price in the house, and then we're going to start talking about Harold. So a little bit on Dr. Jim Price is a passionate children's book author, school counselor, and advocate for youth development. He is the creator of the acclaimed series, The Adventures of Harold from the Hood, a social skills focused collection designed for children from kindergarten through 6th grade. Through his engaging stories, Jim helps young readers learn the value of diversity, inclusion, and friendship. As a mentor in the public school system and a doctorate candidate at American International College, Jim integrates education and storytelling to inspire lifelong learning. His impactful series has gained national attention, being featured on CBS Los Angeles, Fox Seattle, ABC News York, Studio 17, Live San Diego, and Inside South Florida, while also collaborating with Kids Lit TV. Beyond his books, Dr. Jim leads children's learning social skills through literacy, a program delivered through speaking engagements, webinars, and professional developments training. His work continues to connect families, educators, and communities across the U.S. and beyond, building a global culture of reading and empathy. Dr. Jim debate title, I can't say that word. The Adventures of Harold from the Hood, A Trip to the Park, earned the Kingdom Indie Authors Award for Children's Top Book, and has since evolved into an animated cartoon adaptation. His other works, including Friends Like Different Things, Fun Time, Lunch Time, and When I Feel So Annoyed, further his mission to empower kids through literacy. I know it was a lot, but I wanted to get it all out there. So let me get Dr. Jim Price in the house. He's in the back studio, and we're going to have some talk tonight. I have a bunch of questions here from a bunch of people too as well. So let me get Dr. Jim in here and let's start spilling some tea. Welcome, Dr. Jim.
Hey, how you doing, Miss Liz? So blessed to be here, and I'm so glad for your comeback. This is a comeback. You know what I mean? You're doing your thing. I'm so happy for you, Miss Liz. I'm so happy, and to be a part of Teatime again. You know what I mean?
You are number one for season 6, and I am so honored to have you. Like I told everybody this afternoon, Dr. Jim, I would date Harold. He is my type. He's just got that cool look, man. Those glasses and those running shoes. I don't know, man. He's just got my heart.
They say that's my type. That's my type. That's a song.
So, Dr. Jim, it's been 2 years. I thought it was a year, but it's been 2 years. So what has happened in those 2 years?
There's been so much going on. I just came out with a new book, the 4th book in the series, When I Feel So Annoyed. And that's been very good. And that book primarily deals with teaching kids to deal with frustration in a healthy way. Talk about de-escalation techniques, being able to understand social cues, utilizing coping skills, and what that looks like for kids who are in that age bracket and stuff like that. So that's been my new release. And it's been well received. And I think, some of the stories that are in that particular story, some adults could use it in terms of de-escalation and stuff like that. So
I know I could.
A lot of people have told me that. So they would say, hey, that book actually, some adults could actually use that lesson, in terms of, dealing with frustration and anger in a healthy way. So that's been going on. I also just released a new educational activity book, which has a lot of educational content attached to it, and for your kids' educational growth. So it has like puzzles and games in it, all educational content stuff for their educational development. So that's been going on, and I mean, I've just been tremendously blessed, and even in the terms of just having the opportunity to do the animated adaptation of the first book, the award-winning book, A Trip to the Park, having a cartoon adaptation made of that particular book. And that was nice to kind of go through the process, because a lot of the stuff I'm just learn on the fly. It's like I'm learning as I go along. So it was interesting to be able to, go through that process, learn that process, and actually come to a realization of a thing that I've always wanted to happen, which was to see Harold in an animated aspect. So all that stuff has come to fruition with me. And, those are just a few of the things that are happening with the new, in terms of this Harold from the Hood brand as it expands and stuff like that.
So Jim, this animated thing, is it going to be like on Netflix? Where's it going to be? Like, where can we find it?
Right now it's on my YouTube channel. So okay. That was my very first episode. I'm actually in the process of having the next episode based off the second book. Oh, actually, it's going to be based off the 4th book, When I Feel So Annoyed. It's in the process of being produced now. So, they're just animated shorts kind of like, and I just kind of use that as a platform to kind of have there be another way that kids can engage with the series, just in terms of reading and the activity books, and be able to see the adaptation of the cartoon of A Trip to the Park, which is about acceptance accepting others' differences wholeheartedly and stuff like that. Equity and inclusion. So I thought those are all projects that kind of connect to the brand, and I've just been blessed with the opportunity to be able to do a lot of these things and connect with people who are willing to work with me and stuff of that, things of that nature. So I'm tremendously blessed in that aspect.
Okay, Jim, back it up there. You said book 4. How many books is there about Harold?
There's 4 right now. So we have A Trip to the Park. That's the first book, award-winning book. Then you have Friends Like Different Things, which is my second book. Then we have Fun Time Lunchtime, which is my third book. I probably should say a little bit about each of the books too. Matt, of course, Trip to the Park is about, diversity and inclusion, accepting.
That was the one you were on Teatime for, was the first one. So see what has happened in 2 years? You've got a couple letter books out there, and I'm just like, whoa, back it up a bit there.
Yeah, so the second book
I didn't do my homework. Oh my God, I'm like taking my notes here. I'm just like, oh.
Hey, it is. Time flies. Time flies. And I mean, when you're doing something you're passionate about and stuff like that, it makes such a difference when you're doing something that you're passionate about. And I'm passionate about this, about helping others and helping, children and families and inspiring change in that way where, children and family can know that they're special. And even though their circumstances may be different from each other, from, one family to the next, there's still a lot of positivity that could come out of situations in the home and stuff like that. So a lot of my series is also about fostering those connections in the home. Like when you're reading the books and stuff, you can actually read it with your child, which is time for you to be able to have bonding time with your child. So I think it's, kind of one of those things like that helps to just not about, reading and learning the social skills, but it's actually an opportunity to be able to connect with your child socially and, make that bond, work on that bond with your child and stuff. So I think those are elements of it too, that I kind of take pride upon in terms of the series.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about each of these books.
So Friends Like Different Things, that's the second book in the series. And primarily it's about making friends, social interaction with others, how to play with other children in a way. And sometimes, kids are playing with each other and one kid wants to play a game and then the other kid wants to play a different game, and they kind of, have that social interaction where it kind of brings into negative connotations to it. And that's what Friends Like Different Things is about, is teaching how to navigate those things. And it's okay for if you like to play different games, but you can take turns. You can do turn taking. Also being able to explore new and challenging activities maybe that they haven't tried before, new activities that they haven't tried before, that could possibly, find them, have common ground. Now you have common ground with somebody who likes something different from you. So now that kind of makes that element roll in that way. So Friends Like Different Things is about that. Fun Time Lunchtime is kind of like the element of the school environment when you talk about fun time lunchtime and you get into like advocating for yourself. You're going up to the lunch line. Harold's going up to the lunch to order lunch, and he has to advocate for what he wants for lunch. He has to speak up and say something, be vocal. And there's also a time for using social skills too. In that way, like Harold goes through, talking with his friends at lunch, having conversations about things that they share in common. And also playing on the playground. You use coping skills if things don't go your way. It's also about exercise too and healthy eating habits. I made sure to make that a part of that dynamic too, where I wanted to incorporate like the idea of healthy eating habits, eating your fruits and vegetables, how important that is for your growth and development, especially when you talk about children. Their growth and development. So a lot of that's what Fun Time Lunchtime is about. And I kind of explained what, when I feel so annoyed in terms of dealing with frustration and anger in a healthy way is why that's so important too, in terms of social skill building.
Well, and I think all these books are good for adults. Like everything you're mentioning here, like advocating for ourselves. Like we, as adults, we need to really start advocating. That's something we don't talk about, but children, especially children, advocate for yourselves, right? Like if something's not right, then speak up. We don't talk about that. Why I really wanted you here, Jim, was because Harold meant a lot to me. Like when I first met you, I don't know what it was about Harold. Harold took my heart like right from day one. But it was investing in our children, in the literacy world, because so many books, right, are all online books now. So they're not getting that field book, right? Mm-hmm. So when you go in and you speak and you go and do events, Jim, do you bring books so that children can buy these books and parents can, like take the cha-ching out and here you go, like buy a book. It's not only good for your child, but it's also good for you.
Yeah. It's a win-win for everyone, as they say, huh?
Right?
I
Two for
mean,
one, right?
absolutely, absolutely. I'm actually going to be in Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, for an author event coming up at the end of this week. Yeah, coming up. So we'll be doing a major author event based around building a culture of reading in the classroom. And it's going to be great. We'll have educators, families there supporting and coming there and get to do book signings and stuff like that. Just engage and interact with the family and the community out there. And it's not just going to be me; it's going to be other authors too. A panel of good authors that are going to be giving insight and sharing their knowledge and understanding of how things go in terms of incorporating literature in kids' environment and things like that, and how important that is. When you read, it helps you use your imagination. When kids are reading, helps them expand on their imaginations and stuff, because they're going through the rigors of what the character is going through in those stories that they're reading. So it's so important to be able to utilize that time and use it as a time to be able to just connect with families and stuff. So I'm absolutely looking forward to that. Also, and I think that also kind of incorporates with I did start a new program too called Children Developing Social Skills Through Literacy Program.
Okay.
And it wraps around, while, it could be for work related places, schools, libraries, but it's all focused on why social skills are so important, not just in the workplace, but for kids, for schools, for everyone, why social skills are so important. So I have like a workshop that I have put together for that. That's my new program. So everything I'm doing is kind of geared toward pushing the idea of how important literacy is and reading is in terms of our youth, not just for our youth, but adults need to read too. I still read. I did a lot of reading in the doctorate program. I probably did more reading than I wanted to, but I mean,
I'm doing more reading as an adult than I did as a child. I'm telling you that. I'm just like, oh my goodness. I just got a new book in the mail too today, and I read the book outside while having my coffee outside this morning, and I was just like, wow, like I'm always reading now. When I was younger, it wasn't so much in the books.
Yeah, me too. So I still read a little bit here and there. I'm like a history buff, so I read a lot of historical stuff and stuff like that. And just it's good to expand your mind. And of course, when you're reading, that gets those dendrites going and everything in the brain, and go, it sparks some imagination and thought and stuff, like thought-provoking stuff. So I mean, that's always good to exercise your mind too. People want to exercise their body, but it's also important to remember to exercise your mind too, because I mean, the mind makes your body function. So if you're exercising your mind through reading and doing things like that, or even just puzzles or whatever, that's very helpful too in terms of like self-care and stuff, which is very important too.
Absolutely. We have a question that came in, Jim. Are schools encouraging reading out loud?
Absolutely. That's a new kind of thing that's been on the rise. I know within the past school year, I've done several read alouds at schools and stuff, and it's an opportunity for the kids to connect with the author. But with my series, I'm able to have them go through a social lesson while I'm doing the read aloud, and then give them time to, ask them questions and have them, ask me questions about the social story in that particular books. And the kids seem like they get a kick out of it, because I have a snail puppet that I use too that was put together for me. So the snail puppet that I utilize that in the read alouds, and the kids really get a kick out of that. I remember one time I was doing my last read aloud before the school year was out. I had a little like stage set up, and I was doing the read aloud, and I had Purple Hero with me and everything. And I guess while I was using the puppet, I had forgot to keep talking like Harold. When the kids were like, hey, what? I was like, what's going on? He's like, you're not talking like Harold. He's not talking like Harold. The kid was saying that he was right beside him. He said, he's not talking. I said, I'm sorry, my bad. I started to do the Harold voice again and stuff. I was caught up in the read aloud that I had kind of, slipped up and stopped talking, using the Harold voice for the puppet. And the kid picked it up like, yeah, you're not using the voice. You got to use the voice, man.
We want the voice. We want Harold. I guess the only way I'm going to have a date with Harold is if I go see you, Jim.
The kids absolutely love it though. But that is the thing in a lot of school districts across the country. Read alouds are the new thing, and not just in schools, but in libraries too. I've been, done events in libraries and stuff like that, and connected with libraries and stuff to do events like that, read alouds like that. And I think it gives the kids a chance to really connect with the author. They see the book and stuff like that, but sometimes they don't ever really see the author and stuff. And so I think, especially in those kind of situations, it's good to be able to have that opportunity to have the kids to see the author and do the read alouds and have them actually engage with me and see if they really understand the social skill lessons that are embedded within the books.
We got a question that just came in, Jim, for you. Are more children authors using puppets for their stories?
I really don't know.
That's a good question, because I see puppets all over now. I'm just like, wait, are they bringing puppets back? Like, because I love a good puppet show.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I'm sure there's children's book authors that are utilizing other things, puppets and stuff like that, and other kind of accessories to help bring to life their stories and stuff like that. I mean, I just like it to use that kind of stuff because, I think for kids, it definitely makes the situation more engaging because now, they're not just seeing me. Now they're talking to Harold too, which is in the book. So, I mean, it kind of makes a difference. But I do puppet shows and stuff too. So I think usually when they have events in this area, and like coming up November, we have an event here in Springfield, and that's one of the events where I always do the puppet show. So I do read alouds, but I also do the puppet show too. I don't have puppets to all the characters, but I have the main character, and then I have like made up characters. The other characters are made up, so I can utilize them for puppet shows and stuff. So I mean, it's a good thing. It really gets the kids engaged and gets them excited about the read alouds and stuff like that, and being attentive and paying attention and stuff. So I mean, I would always suggest that if somebody wants to utilize those kind of aspects of things, I mean, I would definitely be one to say, go ahead and do it.
Well, for all my listeners out there, if you're an adult, how many people use your children as an excuse to go to a puppet show? I know I do. I'm like, kids, do you want to go see a puppet show? And they're like, I'm like, come on, we got to do this. Like, I'm the one that's kind of cheering them on.
Yeah.
And we did talk about that, Jim, when we did the reunion show. The last one, we talked about doing a puppet show, and that's something maybe we need to bring to Tea Time is a puppet show. I gotta find me some more puppeteers out there and have a good puppet show for Tea Time.
Yeah, I would be definitely good with that.
Absolutely. And Harold, I would get to see Harold. Harold has stolen my heart. So if anybody is looking to get Miss Liz's heart, it's already taken. Harold has taken it. So we have some other questions that came in while I was telling everybody you were coming on Tea Time, Jim. So I want to get those questions out to you.
Yeah.
I found that they were really strong, empowering questions. So I really want to get those out. So let's start with number one. Your Harold from the Hood series has resonated with so many young readers. What inspired you to create Harold's world and the characters that surround him?
Well, that's a lot of that stems bound kind of, because I am a school counselor too by trade. So a lot of that has stemmed from what I see in the public schools. I'm a public school counselor. So a lot of that creation of these stories comes exactly from what I see happening day in and day out with the students and stuff. A lot of them are dealing with trauma at home, dysfunction in the home, a lot of things, mental health. I mean, that's a big thing. And, mental health is really been something that's really came up as something major happening in a lot of the school districts now. But I try to utilize those times to be able to look at what's needed and see what's needed and see what's happening in schools. And a lot of time, that's where I get my ideas for social skill lessons, pulling it straight from what I'm seeing at the recess or seeing straight from what I'm seeing at whatever, a situation comes up and I'm like, yeah, you know what, this just happened. And you know what, that might be a good idea for a social skill lesson for a book, so I'm in the environment where I just have a plethora of stuff that I can pull from in terms of social skill lessons. And even though there's a lot of information, it's always challenging to figure out, okay, what will be the social skill lesson for the next book? Like what will be the focus for that particular book? Because there's such a broad array of social skill lessons that could be utilized and taught and could be beneficial to families and kids and stuff like that, districts, school districts, libraries and stuff. So I think for me, that's kind of like where it's at, and I kind of just let my mind go where it goes. Uses my creativity, my creative mind to just let my imagination run, and it's paid good for me thus far.
So what encouraged you to get those characters? Like, is it childhood drawings that you did as a child, Jim,
Oh,
or would somebody come to you and say, like, you know what, I need a purple snail in my life? Or
actually, like it's always like you go back to the backstory of Harold and how his origins, I should say, when back in 2012 when I was doing social skill lessons at behavioral school, and it was elementary then, and I had to do social skill lessons, and a lot of times, those elementary kids have a hard time focusing, paying attention, and staying still, if anything. So I had to
reading
figure
the
out.
purple snail, and you got them.
He wasn't a purple snail at that time yet. He wasn't a purple snail yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
so he changed colors.
yeah, he was actually
Oh,
uh, like a regular brown looking snail. When I pulled him from the drawer, it was a puppet actually, and I had just found him in a drawer somewhere in the school, in the office. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna use this right here. And then before I decided to use it, I said I have to come up with a name for this puppet before I go in this, do this lesson with the kids. And before I walked in, I said, you know what, I'm gonna call him Harold from the Hood. And I walked into the
I
classroom
love
with
it.
these kids and did the puppet, did the social lesson with the kids. The puppet, they loved the puppet idea, and they loved Harold from the Hood. So that kind of gave me the backing to be able to do the social lesson with the kids and have them actually be attentive to the lessons, which is the most important part. But then they got to interact with Harold, the puppet, later. So then, by the time the pandemic hit and everything, everybody was in home, and I was thinking, you know what, I could probably make that into a social skill lesson. Social skill series, I should say. So then that's when I draw too. I actually, I'm a little art. I got some art in me. So I would sketch out like the characters and stuff, and that's how a lot of the characters were developed. They were all from sketches from me. I just kind of put them together because I did know how to draw a little bit. And even when you see Harold the snail, like a lot of the features of Harold, have elements of me. Like, you have the hair, you have the glasses, and then back when I was in high school, middle school, I had a high top fade. So, it kind of like elements of Harold are a part of me. But, the most important thing is, I always try to say that the Harold from the Hood series is about overcoming challenges, facing adversity, I should say, overcoming challenges and stuff like that, and understanding that you can find a way to get through adversity if you just focus and stay maintain a positive mindset and things of that nature. So I mean, that's also part of what resonates with the series as well.
So Jim, is Harold your little secret? If you could turn into a cartoon, that would be you.
Absolutely.
You're so busted. I know.
Yeah, I would definitely be Harold.
When you mentioned the glasses, I was like, absolutely. Now I get it. Now I got it. So did you have those cool running shoes too growing up?
No, actually, I did, but back in the day, it wasn't cool to wear glasses in middle school and stuff like that. So my parents, they had got me two pairs, and each time I would go to school, and we had lockers back then, and I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not wearing these. And I would put them in the locker, then tell my mom that, yeah, I lost them. I don't know what happened to them, Mom. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I had them one day and they're gone. And they said, well, we're going to get you another pair. And they would give me another pair.
Burn it.
And I would put those in the locker too and leave them there. And I don't know what happened to them, Mom. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't.
Where did those missing running shoes go?
But now it's like, I embrace it because I want to see. I like to see everything. You know what I mean? These glasses help me see everything. So I definitely embrace it all now, being able to wear glasses. But when I was in middle school, I was definitely not a fan of them. And I was supposed to be wearing them then, but I was definitely not a fan.
So how old were you when you got your glasses, Jim?
I was probably like middle school. I was probably like 12, 13, 14, something like in that bracket. When they first, tested me and they said, oh yeah, you need glasses. I was like, oh man, I'm thinking to myself, no, I really don't need glasses. I don't think, I'm seeing 2020. But
right? Now we have people reading glasses like that think it's cool, right? Like it's just like,
exactly.
We were the cool kids back then. We didn't even know it.
Yeah. So I mean, that was about the age. But after that, I got older and things change. You know, your mindset changes as you get older. So, you know, the way I think now is definitely different from the way I used to think in my 20s and 30s. And as you get older, your mindset changes. So now, you know, you embrace all these things. You know, hey, okay, I need glasses. Okay, I'm gonna wear glasses. If the doctor says, hey, you should exercise more, I'm gonna exercise more, you know.
It only took us 50 years.
Now I want to listen to the doctor. You know, he says, hey, man,
Yeah.
eat 3 apples a day.
Okay,
I'm
now it
trying to
makes
eat 3 apples a day.
Right? Okay, so let's get on to the next question here we have for you, Jim. You work extensively as a public school counselor. How have your experiences with children shaped the themes in your books?
I feel like a lot of the themes come from a lot of what you see because, like I said, there's a lot of families. There's a lot of dysfunction in families, a lot of disconnecting families and stuff, and children are dealing with trauma, unhealed trauma. They're dealing with mental health concerns. They're, you know, dealing with dysfunction in families, and then they're coming to school and expected to sit upright and learn and listen and stuff like that when they got all this stuff going on in the background. So a lot of the themes of my book, I think, plays into the role of trying to look at it and come from that perspective of understanding that the kids are not just, you know, they're coming from different home functions, home communities and stuff like that. And being able to understand that puts you in the platform to be able to really push toward, you know, having the series and stuff in the children's book and the themes of the books be geared toward something that they can understand that speaks on their level, that they can understand and, you know, gravitate to. And of course, you know, I make it all the series very colorful and, you know, things like that, you know, bright, vibrant colors and stuff like that. You know, and I think those are things that are also appealing to kids too, having the vibrant colors and stuff. So I try to make sure the theme does kind of relate to situations, but I also keep into account that, you know, a lot of kids are coming from different home environments. And, you know, like I said, there's a lot of mental health issues and trauma, unhealed trauma, and a lot of things that the kids are going through. And then they're expected to come to school and be right, act right, sit up right, and everything and do their work. And a lot of times, you know, even with poverty and stuff, we think about poverty, putting poverty in the pot. You know, some of the kids, you know, they don't really have much to eat at home in the school settings where they're getting most of their meals. So, and those kids are expected to come to school and learn and pay attention and everything like that. So a lot of the themes come from that aspect of things, understanding home, connecting at the school environment, and just trying to support the kids the best you can.
Absolutely. You know, and there's so much that we can use children's books for, right? To make a positive impact. You know, it takes the heaviness away sometimes
Yep.
when you put it into cartoons and that. The next question goes right into that. The animation adaptation of Harold from the Hood, A Trip to the Park, is a big milestone. What was it like seeing your story come to life on screen?
Ooh, that was that was a different kind of experience, and I'd really that's what I was saying. Some things happen, and you're like, "Is this really going on? Is this really happening?" And like, you know, even during the production of that, you know, you're getting feedback. You're working with the team, the production team, and you're going through things. You say, "Hey, this is right, that is right." You know, there's a lot to it. You know, you get the voiceover work going, and so it's a process that I really didn't know too much about. But I mean, I would have to definitely say FNX Studios, Color Studios, they definitely were patient with me and so great with working with me going through the process since I had never been through a process like that before. But I mean, you know, I would get tidbits here and there of the episodes as we were like putting parts together and stuff like that. And it was just amazing to go from, you know, like it went from like no color at all, just kind of like sketches and, you know, your characters walking and stuff like that. Then you go from that to having colored into the background and stuff. And then you come to what's almost a finished release and you look at the whole package as a whole and you're like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. Like, you know, like to see your characters talking and walking and all the other characters interacting too. And, you know, just the background, the vibrant colors is shared that same sense of the books in that sense, you know, with the vibrant colors and stuff like that. And still having that element of the social skill lessons involved and stuff like that too, that the youngsters can, you know, young kids and stuff and families can gravitate to. So I was definitely blessed to be able to have that even happen. But now that I've gone through the process once, it's like, okay, now I kind of know the ins and outs, you know, what that is and how that functions. And so, I mean, definitely was a blessing to be able to do that.
Well, there's so many hidden things, right, that go on to make that production. that a lot of people don't realize. They're just like, oh, it's just a video. There's a lot of steps along the way that has to happen.
Mhm.
And I like the way that you've shared it, because you shared the black and white, and you shared the color, you shared the process
Yes.
with the viewers and that as well, on your YouTube channel. So if anybody wants, they can go and check out his YouTube channel. We'll get that out at the end of the show and all that good stuff. The next question I have for you is, your newest activity book focuses on empowering kids through social skills and diversity. Why do you think these topics are so critical in today's society?
I mean, I always feel like, like when you talk about adversity and inclusion, diversity, and those kind of things. I mean, especially with the climate of the U.S. today and things that are going on, sometimes we lost focus on what's important, and especially when we're talking about having our kids looking at what's going on too. These kids, they're like sponges. They're seeing what's going on with the adults and how they're interacting and stuff. And of course, they're going to be the ones coming up the ladder and being the ones who are making important decisions for us when we're old and gray and, in the older stages of our lives and stuff like that. So, I mean, just seeing the climate of the country and stuff like that, I think it's so important to have those conversations about the importance of diversity and inclusion and things of that nature, and making sure that we are talking about it wholeheartedly. I know a lot of times, people kind of get uncomfortable talking about those kind of conversations, but I mean, it's nothing to be uncomfortable about. I mean, we all may have different cultures and values and things like that, but we all say, I always have a heart. We all have a heart. And I think that's so important to remember. So, and at the same time, when you're having those conversations, you might find out that you have something in common with someone else that's different from yourself culturally or something like that. And then all of a sudden you could build on that. And all of a sudden you have a nice friendship going, just because you decide to reach out and try to understand someone else's perspective other than your own.
And that's what the whole tea time is different perspectives, and then we just make these beautiful relationships like we have, just having that open conversation. And we need to start having more open conversations. Stop being so scared, right? That goes right into the next question, actually. You often stress the importance of accepting differences. Can you share a moment in your career where you witnessed the transformational power of inclusion?
I mean, I think that's one of the things, like, being in the school system and stuff, you get to see a lot of things. And I also work with a lot of kids from special education as well. So a lot of times, like in a lot of these districts, you'll see how the special education department is kind of isolated in put in a different area of the school and stuff like that, where they're not really true inclusion. And I think that's one of the things that, as an example, I could say, at least with our district, we try to make it more where, kids with special needs are included and, at least have the chance and opportunity to be in a classroom that's, the regular classes and stuff like that, and have them have the opportunity to have that experience, and I think that's a perfect example of what I mean when we talk about diversity and inclusion, because you can see that in schools all across the country where special education departments are kind of isolated in the building and separated out kind of, and then the rest of the building, school isn't, and, so I think that's a perfect example of kind of what I mean in terms of like how important inclusion is, because you think about how those kids feel when they're actually being like, okay, I'm being included in these classroom with peers, versus kind of being isolated and put in the classroom somewhere else and kind of just staying there all day, so imagine how that would make those kids feel. They feel like, they're being accepted, feeling like, yeah, okay, yeah, I have acceptance here. I'm being included in what's going on in a holistic way. So I mean, that's the best example. I think at least one example I could give in terms of why it's so important. And that also, steams over into the world too, when you think about the work environment, the workplace environments and stuff like that, and how people have different ideas and ideologies about different things and stuff like that. You want to be able to have things be cohesive in that way where, everybody's view is understood and respected. But at the same time, cultural values are put together where people can understand each other better.
Absolutely. And that's what I mentioned this afternoon, right? We talk about diversity and inclusion, but I find that we seem to be more divided now.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
we seem to have these boxes, right?
Mm,
And we
mm,
talked about this when you were on Tea Time the first time, was these boxes, right? Like, okay, you're autistic, you're autism, you're high level, high learner. We're putting these children into different boxes instead of letting them learn from each other,
yeah, absolutely.
learning different ways.
Mm.
Do you do that as an educator, bring in different ways of learning?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, everybody loves tech, of course. That's the newest thing in education now is everybody wants to include tech because now that's kind of the language of the kids. All the students, they speak tech. If they anything, they're on their phones, they're
It's broken
texting.
tech. That's what I
Yeah.
call that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm doing lunch duty. This is just a small example of what I mean, how heavy it is. I'm doing lunch duty and stuff, and then there's two students. They're like one on the one table, one is like probably like 5 feet on another table, and they're texting each other instead of just getting up and talking. Like the dude is the kids is right there, and they're like texting each other when they're like 5 feet away from each other. I'm like, have that social interaction. Put your phone away. Like enjoy. Use your
Yeah,
mind.
it's like if somebody taps you on the shoulder, you're like, what was supposed to talk? Oh no.
Technology is the rule of the lay of the land. These kids just all in the tech. So that's been something that's definitely been incorporated, at least in our district, and I think in districts in the surrounding areas where I'm at locally, is including tech now because now the kids are all about tech. They're all about iPads. They're all about cell phones. Google, they're Google. We didn't have Google when we were growing up. You had to find out the answer yourself. Now they can, be taking a math test and Google the answer. Like it's just, it really changes the dynamic of the learning environment in that way. So I think, that's one of the things that has definitely changed in terms of education is how tech has been incorporated, using technology and stuff has been incorporated in terms of, learning lessons, using those learning lessons and stuff like that that the kids go through, even with some social skills myself. I try to incorporate some aspect of tech or at least let the tech be like an incentive to be able to have them get through social lessons and listen and get something from the lessons that we talk about when I'm doing like social groups and stuff like that, or even like one-to-one counseling and stuff like that.
Yeah. It scares me because like I'm trying to even learn the tech language, like, and I'm just like, what are you saying? I'm just like, hey, you forgot a letter, you're breaking it up, or like, are we talking in code, like, like SOS here, or
Right.
you need help? No, you don't need help. You want to go out? You don't want to go out? Like, it's really hard to understand. So, and we talked about this right at the beginning of the show, right? Is that feel of a real book compared to the audio book, right?
Yeah.
Have you done the audio book?
No, that's something that I actually was thinking about moving on, but there's been so many things happening and projects going on and stuff. But I had thought about doing it. I do have ebooks. I think of 1, 2, and 3, not 4. But I do have ebooks of that, and I think it's good to have, since they're so connected to technology and stuff like that. I think it was good to have that component added to the series as well. So not only do the kids could get the physical copies of the book if they wanted to, they could get e-copies of the book and still enjoy the Hero from the Hood series and get those social skill lessons and engage with their parents or whatever while they're reading it and stuff like that, making it a bonding moment. So I mean, it's definitely an endeavor. But I definitely was thinking about audiobooks too, but I hadn't really tapped into that aspect of things. I'm sure I could now that you get places and you get to know so many people, and I'm always like, somebody knows somebody who knows somebody who does, who could probably make that happen.
Let me connect you to that one then. I don't know, connect you to that one. That's kind of like what Miss Liz does, right? Connect the dots, right? Like, where's my thread?
Absolutely.
We have some more incredible questions here that I want to get out to you because they kind of go into all of the stuff that you do, right? And that's why I pulled these questions out of the ones that were sent to me. The next one that I have for you is, how does your program, Children's Developing Social Skill Through Literacy, integrate with your storytelling to create real world impact?
Absolutely. So a lot of times, I mean, we know that building social skills, of course, are the building blocks of how we think, feel, say, and also how we respond in social situations, what our actions are, the choices that we make socially in terms of how we engage with others and how others engage with us. And I think that's the most important thing. Even when you think about business, a lot of time you have to be a people person. If you're doing business and trying to collaborate business with agencies, between agencies and stuff like that. So I think social skills, my program actually combines those elements of that. That's, when you talk about getting away just from the children's books, how important it is to have those social skills, those people skills, to be able to bridge the gap and utilize those skills for good networking for businesses and stuff like that. When you have those networking skills and you have good people skills, people will be more willing to collaborate with you in business and stuff like that. So in terms of that, the program, that's how I kind of incorporate those things in terms of the presentation and stuff like that, and the workshop, and how I pretty much involve those things in terms of how important social skills are.
Yeah, when we need to bring those people skills to the table. That's why I said parents go out and buy a book. Like I have the first one and I got to buy 3 more because my granddaughter actually loves that Harold.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad she does.
That's one of her bedtime stories when she sleeps over at Nanny's. So, yeah. So I have the first one. I got to get the other 3. I didn't know about the other 3. Now I got to get the other 3, and I got to get the activity book. And for all the listeners out there, go and check out that activity book because it's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Jim, what challenges have you faced in bringing diversity and inclusion into children's literature, and how have you overcome them?
I mean, for me, I'm always looking at the most. You never want to it's kind of like when I was a kid, and my mom would make green beans, and at the time when I was a kid, I didn't like green beans, and she'd be like, "Eat green beans," and I'd be like, "I don't
like green beans either. I like yellow, but not green."
But she didn't force me to eat them. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, as I got older, of course, I was like, "Oh, green beans are not that bad," But it's kind of like that. So when I'm talking about diversity and inclusion and things of that nature and acceptance of others' differences, I try to do it in a way that's just not like, make you eat the green beans. You know what I mean? I'm not.
Yeah, eat those green beans.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's more like subtle, where it's more like, it's just not in your face and stuff like that. And I think it makes it that way. It makes it more where, probably be more accepted in that way, where it's not just like a eat your green beans, you better eat your green beans kind of way. It's more like less than that. But at the same time, it is about getting lessons and stuff. And I think that's the most important element, is being able to make sure the social lessons that are a part of this book series are, understood and stuff like that. And that your kids get it, because, just like in basketball, you have to practice. And I always say, when you talk about social skills, you do have to practice them. You have to practice coping skills. You have to practice those social skills, social interactive skills. So practice makes perfect. As long as your kid is continue to practice those social skills, practice them at some, point, they do, hopefully they do stick. A lot of times when kids are in turmoil and their emotions are running high, it's sometimes hard for them to make good choices in those situations because their emotions are running so high. So it's just so important to incorporate those ideas of how social skills are important, and have them practice those social skills. And at some point those social skills hopefully stick, and they can make better choices when social interactions happen that maybe not totally agree with. There's a lot of things, social interactions that I don't agree with. I'm like a New York Yankee fan, but I live in Springfield, Mass. A lot of people don't agree with that, but you know what? I really don't care. Go Yankees.
That's what I like. You don't have to like it. We can care to disagree.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. We can, we can be carefree and disagree, and and that's just what's wonderful about our world and stuff. People can have their own opinions and stuff like that. And share their ideas and stuff. And I mean, especially when you talk about the kids, that's where it starts at. It starts at the first social group, or first social interactions that kids have is, of course, in the home with their parents and stuff and siblings. That's where it all starts, and then expands out into the communities, into schools and stuff like that. But that's where it really starts from, is in the home. So, I mean, starting with your kid early and being able to work on these social skills and teach them the coping skills and things that they need to navigate the world that they're going to be going into is so important. It's so important.
Yeah. Absolutely. We have a question here. As an award-winning author and educator, what advice do you have for parents and teachers who want to foster empathy and social growth in children?
I mean, one of the things, like I was saying, like a lot of the stuff starts with those conversations at home with your child, having them understand, hey, this is what we're doing, and this is what we're talking about. Working on social skills, being appropriate to others, basically treating others like you want to be treated, and teaching that lesson. And it also bridges into school, being able to go to the school and keeping up with parent conferences and things like that, and collaborating with the teachers at schools. And so it's like what is happening at school is happening at home too. And a lot of times when you do it like that and you're incorporating honest dialogue with your child and trying to have them understand those aspects of how important it is to, make healthy choices, make good choices. And of course, how bad choices can lead to bad outcomes. Having to understand those things is so important. So for me, that's how I kind of incorporate those ideas and try to make it so, it's like, parents can understand supporting the families at home, supporting them, understanding that they have the support of the school and stuff like that. It kind of makes for a good dynamic where the child could definitely be good and grow up and have nurtured the good social skills.
Absolutely. So now I'm going to take you down a little rabbit hole there. Now we're going to have personal time with you, Dr. Jim. I want to go with your favorite color. Your favorite color is blue. And your word that you gave me was perseverance. Did I get to say it? Yes, I did. And then I'm going to talk about your tea. And so we're going to throw it all into one big rabbit hole. And then you're going to give us a little bit on why blue, why perseverance, and your tea that you gave me. Let me see. Let me pull it up here. Like I said, you guys are going to see papers and pens this year. Miss Liz is getting older.
Hey, we all are.
It's like, where's the book, right? So your tea that you gave me was overcoming adversity, living in your purpose, and the youths are the future. So give me a little bit on the blue, the perseverance, and the tea that you gave me.
The color blue, I've always liked that color. I don't know what it is about blue, man. I mean, it's either going to be blue or green. Green is the money, and blue
I think that was the color you gave me the last time was green. I got to find my old book where you were in.
I believe it was green. I think it was green.
I think so.
Yeah, I believe. I mean, blue is just kind of like, is a color where you think a lot. Well, for me, I think about the ocean and how the ripples, like, I have been on a cruise and stuff like that, and I was able to see how beautiful the water was and stuff like that. And it just made me think about blue and like you're refreshing yourself, like you're going through a period of refreshing yourself, reinventing yourself, stuff like that. So the blue kind of resonated with that. And the others, as far as like the perseverance, of course, we talk about making it through adversity, challenging situations that can be challenging and difficult, like I lost my father not too long ago. And so, that was a lot to go through and work through and stuff. I still, have feelings about that too. His birthday was just July 20th, and I did a little celebratory thing to, celebrate his legacy. Then, let some balloons go with my daughter and everything like that. So, it's doing little things like that. You persevere through situations that can cause pain and suffering and stuff like that, and you turn it into something positive. In terms of the second one, I had said, I remember the second one was the power, standing in your power. Oh, yes. Yeah. So, I mean, that's about like where I'm at. Sometime in life, you're trying to find your way. You're trying to find what you're supposed to do when you're here. What is your purpose, in that sense. So sometimes it takes a little while to find that, and you go through a lot of struggles and a lot of situations and stuff like that help you kind of go through what you need to go through to be able to find that purpose. And then once you find that purpose, so for me, that purpose is inspiring kids worldwide to be the best that they can be, the best version of themselves that they could be, and understand through self-care and understand their self-worth that they are valuable, they are loved, and they're capable of doing great things in the world. So that's kind of like where the purpose comes from. And in terms of the last one, it's kind of
for our future.
Yes, absolutely. I'm talking about we get old and stuff.
I told you, right?
I'm like,
we're giving our ages away here.
Yeah, but the children are our future. I mean, they're the ones that are going to be given the torch to move things forward after we're kind of older and in our things. I was just talking about that with my sister the other day because I mean I turned my age, and I was getting letters in the
You got
mail.
a good age. That's all I'm going to say to everybody. He's got a good age. It's a good age, guys.
I was getting letters in the mail from AARP, and I'm like, oh man, what is that all about? Like,
You
no,
slow
it ain't
down.
time for that now. Come on now. I was like, oh man, we got to put that mail away. We're gonna stuff that
Right?
somewhere else.
Not for another 10 years. Like, come on, get over there.
Yeah, we got to move back on that. I was like, they really sent me something on AARP? Like they really did that? Oh my goodness. But
Right?
our
It's
kids
like,
are the future, and that's that's why it's important for them to learn the social skills because social skills do last a lifetime. So when they're nurtured social skills when they're a kid, those are things that are going to stick with them through the rest of their lives. So I mean that's kind of like where it's so important when we talk about the kids are our future, and why I picked that one.
absolutely. And before we wrap it up, before you give out all the information of where people can find you, I got one last question for you, and that comes from Miss Liz's Golden Heart. Give me a moment in your life that made a difference to you.
A moment. Oh, there's many moments in my life.
Only one.
But I think
I gotta pick.
you know what? There was a moment like I used to play basketball too, and there was a moment that kind of resonated with me. And one of my basketball coaches that was knowing I was struggling a little bit at that time in my life, and he said to me, "Don't worry." He said, "Adversity is something that actually makes you go stronger, so that when you get to where you're going, you'll appreciate it more because of all you went through to get there." And that's something that has resonated me over the years. And that was told years ago. I was probably in my, much younger than what I am now. But that's something that's always stuck with me and resonated with me. So I think after that, I mean, it seemed like things really turned around and got my focus back to where it needed to be. And, who would ever imagine all this time later that I would even graduated with my doctorate, so, I mean, it really just something that resonated with me and stuck with me over the years. And, and sports teaches you, working together with others, teamwork and stuff like that. So I think for me, playing basketball in my younger days definitely helped me to shift my attention and shift my understanding of, even that in that way, socially, how to navigate a lot of things. So I would say that for me, that was probably one of definitely an important time.
So was that a school teacher or coach or something?
Yeah, basketball coach that I had. Yeah.
Makes sense because you're an educator, so it had to come from somebody who taught you.
Yeah.
That's how you got into the school system, guys. You listen to the coach.
Yeah, you got to listen to that coach, or you're not going to play. You'll be on the bench if you don't listen.
Absolutely. So, Jim, where can people find your stuff? Where can they get these books? All of that good stuff.
Yeah. So first, I always like to use my website as my main hub, and that's jimpricebooks.education. Once again, that's jimpricebooks.education. That's my website, and that's like the hub for all my books, the activity books. You can even catch the animated, episode there, the adaptation there. My books are also found on Barnes & Noble online, Amazon online, Walmart online. So that's where pretty much all the books are at. But I usually like to use the main hub of my website as the easiest avenue. You just, jimpricebooks.education. And that's like the hub for everything, my activity books, all four of the books. I also started blogging too. So I have a blog that I started not too long ago. So I've been putting together stuff for that too. I already have my first blog put out, but I've been working on some other stuff with that too. So, I just put my hand, I keep myself busy and keep my hands in a lot of things. And I'm having fun while I'm doing everything. I'm absolutely having a blast doing everything I'm doing in terms of being an author and being able to inspire youth wherever, worldwide in that sense,
See, I'm a little rusty. See, like I was like, oh, where do I find this? Thank God I got all of this all over here. The boom, boom. Oh, okay, there we go. So again, for everybody who would like to know more about Jim or get his books, activity books, all of that good stuff, check out jimpricebooks.education. It is on the screen for all of the people that are watching the video. If you're listening to the audio, you're gonna have to wait to the end of the show to hear it. So that's just the way Miss Liz is gonna work this year. We're gonna bring it right to the good old end. Well, really want to thank you, Jim, for joining me and being the first guest on season 6. Let's see how many we get out there. Miss Liz has 75 books, so let's see if we can get 75, maybe 76. We don't know, right?
Yeah.
So any final words, Jim, before we leave?
Hey, I always say, first of all, I appreciate you inviting me to your show, Miss Liz. I know we've been, collaborating on some things and been in touch and stuff like that. And I think it's fabulous that you have decided to come back and bring your show back. I mean, it's a lot of people need inspiration, and when you talk about some of the topics that you talk about, those are inspiring topics that people really, can use and stuff like that in terms of helping them think about their lives and healing, especially when we talk about how mental health is such ravaging a lot of communities and stuff like that. So, I mean, your show is definitely inspiring that way. So, I just encourage people to remember self-care is so important. Sometimes we're so wrapped up in everything that we forget about taking care of ourselves. So making sure you take time out to do something for yourself is important. Self-care is so important. That'd probably be the most important point.
Well, thank you so much. And it was a pleasure having you back. And let's stay in contact, and let's not make it so long next time. But we will be back for tea time. That's right. Miss Liz is in full force again. So Thursday, 3 p.m., 7 p.m., we have 2 incredible shows coming, 2 incredible more topics coming. So you check out, if you haven't subscribed to Miss Liz's YouTube channel, go over and subscribe to that. If you'd like the audio version, you can go to Spotify, Miss Liz's Teatimes over there as well. Just Google Miss Liz's Teatime and you're going to find me. Miss Liz is all over the place. I really want to thank you, Jim, for joining me. I want to thank all the listeners out there. Special shout out to a couple of new faces that I see here. Thank you for joining. And thank you to the people that are on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, all of those good places. And later on, Jim will be on TikTok in just a few moments. So that's where we're going to be going. So we have a lot of different surprises going on this year on Tea Time with Miss Liz. And I really just want to thank everybody for tuning in. And I will see you guys all Thursday, same time, same place. And we'll do this all over again.